Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Sam64, and welcome to the RoboCast to discuss the final fight card episode of BattleBots for 2018. I'm joined alongside, as ever,
Anderson9132, the RoboCast guru.
And Steve, the American Killjoy.
and as fairly recently, fairly normal, we have a guest. Introduce yourself, sir.
I guess I'm Mystrsyko.
Yes, you are.
Let's hope so. I mean, we did ask for him to come along.
We did,
Yeah.
yeah.
It was this imposter.
Yeah.
It'd be
Maybe it's
awkward.
his brother again. Obviously, you joined us for the very first episode of this season. You know, you joined us for the last of the fight cards. What have you made of the season as a whole? Obviously, you've done your own reviews of the episodes. What have you made of it?
As a whole, this is the single best season of robot fighting TV ever.
I think that's fairly accurate. Yeah.
Just, especially that it's so long. We're on episode 17.
Yeah.
This would be 2.5 seasons of Robot Wars at this point.
Yeah.
And we're not even to the finals yet. It's just amazing.
Yeah. In fact, next week's episode it will have encompassed the entirety of the Robot Wars reboot. it kind of puts you a lot. That puts quite a lot into perspective, really, doesn't it? How many fights there's been. Obviously, this has been pretty much the ultimate roundup of all the the fight cards and who's still got fights left to get to 4. Pretty much, I think there's a few teams that didn't get 4 fights due to timing restrictions, but ultimately the big guys who ended up getting the 4 fights have pretty much settled themselves into a bracket. There's still a few places to decide, including probably the most controversial fight of all time, according to the internet, in terms of the Last Chance Rumble. We'll get to that a bit later on. There is a lot to discuss.
We've been stewing over that for a while.
Oh, yes, we have. Yes, we have indeed. But in the meantime, shall we start off with our first fight, which was great fun, between Ice Wave and Huge.
Yeah.
Ice Wave's getting a habit of this, isn't it? I mean, Huge is a very big and spindly old thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it got split in half.
Yeah.
It was incredible. I didn't think, looking at the two robots, you kind of think, okay, Ice Wave's probably got the advantage, but I didn't think it'd have that kind of advantage. What were your guys' thoughts?
Well, I mean, this fight made me laugh so much my sides split.
I started laughing before you even said it.
God's sake. No, I thought this fight was, what's the best way to describe it? Short but sweet.
Yeah.
Exactly how Mark put it.
Yeah. Short but sweet. It's very one-sided, yes. It wasn't very long, yes. Can you really call it a battle? Debatable. But it was bloody good fun, and I don't care. So it's all fair.
Yeah.
As far as spectacle's concerned, this is a 5 out of 5 any day of the week.
Definitely. I mean, it was kind of spoiled by Science Channel and preview before something happened. I never saw it myself, but I saw it after the fact, and I think to myself, man, it really kind of killed the mystery for me. And that happens. They've done that before. Where Mike, you've seen the intros to BattleBots a bunch of times. You know they spoil stuff in the previews and that shit all the time.
Yep, everybody does it.
I mean, it's hard. Robot Wars does it too. It's good to drum up hype. I get it, but that really gave away who was going to win that fight. But at least it didn't give away the splits, because that was something special. I mean, I've had a robot split in half, and it's not a fun thing to see. But it's one of those things where you're like, wow, that actually just happened.
It was for us, to be fair, Steve.
Yeah, it still hurts. But this was it was a spectacle fight. I was a little bit worried that Huge wasn't going to be wide enough to have a wide enough wheelbase for the entirety of Ice Wave to fit in, so it could actually get a hit on the ICE. But yeah, it was a really good spectacle fight, like Anderson put it. I can't put it any other way better.
One thing I did notice as well is that Huge actually used a shorter bar in this fight.
I think that's what lost them the fight, to be honest.
Yeah, I think
because
go on.
Leading up to it, what Huge's advantage was over all its opponents was its reach,
Yeah.
and then they went in with the shortest reach possible against a robot with the longest reach possible.
Very true. And I do get the the tactics behind it. Use the shorter bar and cleave off that IC on top of Ice Wave.
Right, but that's only if it fit in perfectly between those wheels, and you're living in 3D space, so it's it's gonna slide around a little bit. It's not gonna just slot in right to the blade.
I think it would have. I think it would fit between. I think because Icewave, as much as its bar is very wide, the robot itself is very small. Yes. And I think it would have fit in the gap. It's just that obviously Icewave can drive as well. And Huge's traction isn't the best, and I think that's really what cost it in this fight.
And we know that. It's never been.
Yeah, exactly. Its traction and control is a bit limited. Its destructive capability is very obvious.
Yes.
But ultimately it was cleaved in two, and I think there really isn't much more to add to the fight other than they both end at 3-1, and obviously we find out later in the episode they both deservedly get into the top 16, I think. Fair enough.
Absolutely. And the thing is, it's kind of good because I think if Huge had won this fight, I think we would be seeing Icewave much farther down the 16, or maybe not even in it. Maybe they would have looked to others. I don't know. Maybe I think they would have kept Icewave, but I mean, it wouldn't have had such a high seeding in this bracket that we see.
No.
I just think Huge could have potentially been seeded in the top 6 with that.
Yes.
Which is
we
really
thought,
expect.
We predicted that. I mean, there was past podcasts where we thought that that Huge would be a top 8.
Yeah,
but,
I did think that.
Yeah. Oh well.
Anything more to add to Icewave and Huge? I mean, I think we pretty much covered it, really.
Yeah, I mean, that's really... Huge became a multi-bot at the end.
Huge channeling its inner Vanquish and splitting it in half. I love it.
I think the only question at this point is, can they even get it fixed in time for the bracket? Because it's going to be a very, very short period between all of these fights in the bracket.
Yeah, I think so. I think really what broke was the fact that they were fastened. The fastener mostly was broken. I think something makes me think that the halves were still okay. I don't know if they have individual speed controllers like Red Devil. I would assume they do.
They do.
Essentially, that's what Huge is, isn't it? It's just two robots stuck together with a bar.
Basically, it's a Siamese twins, man.
Yeah, I believe it's the same build philosophy. I think maybe it's the same build philosophy as their featherweights. Which is, if that is the case, then yes, both sides are independently driven. So that's good to know. Hopefully, we'll see Huge repaired, ready for the bracket, but we'll have to wait and see.
We'll make a huge comeback.
Damn it!
That was great. That was really good.
How did I miss that?
2 in a row. 2 weeks in a row. Let's go.
You were frozen by Icewave in that one there. Anyway, we'll move on to which is potentially the greatest meme fight of all time. Which is the Four Horsemen, a multibot against Gemini, a multibot.
It's like a middleweight, lightweight rumble.
It's great.
Four Horsemen's British, so it's a cluster bot. So
that is true. That is true. It was a really fun fight. It had nothing to do with the bracket. This was just great fun. I'm so glad they did this.
I am too. And to be honest, it was actually a surprisingly very, very good battle. You got a bit of everything. You got destruction, sparks, tactical driving. Friendly
fire. A bit of friendly fire as well from the Geminis hitting each other.
It's becoming a regular thing with them.
Yeah.
Well, didn't the Four Horsemen team say that they were counting on that to win the fight?
They did say that, yeah. Ian Watt said before the fight, he said that, they're probably going to hit each other, these guys, because they're pretty new to multi-bots and they're not used to it. And lo and behold, his prediction came true.
Yeah.
Further to that end, obviously, Four Horsemen, they're all fairly lightweight robots compared to even Gemini. Gemini, I think are both 125 pounds.
They're middleweight.
Yeah,
basically. And
the Four Horsemen are, a bit lighter than that.
Yeah.
Considering that, the one, I think it was the red Four Horsemen, I think it was War, I want to say.
It was War, yeah.
Did an amazing job, kept going. Yeah.
Man, I was cheering for it by the end. Just like, its whole team is down. It's making this comeback against Gemini. I kind of wanted to see it pull the upset. I didn't care which team won. Gemini won fair and square, and I'm proud of them for that. But I was really pulling for War at the end to be the sole survivor.
It was incredible.
And then the pulverizer kind of took over.
Yes.
Can we just take a moment of silence of Buttercup as well?
Buttercup got a good attack on Gemini. It slammed it all the way across the arena early on.
For a tiny little machine, obviously we know in recent years, the improvements to brushless motors and such, the refinement of that sort of thing. You can have a featherweight essentially take on a heavyweight if it's good enough.
Just like the Nuts guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Those little robots.
Those little mini bots are really, really powerful. In this case as well, Buttercup was right in there, and it was just pushing Gemini around like it was nothing. It was amazing to watch. Amazing to watch.
And then Gemini swatted it away like it was nothing.
Well, yeah, this is very true. But it was, this was a good fun fight. I really enjoyed this. It was,
great tactics as well from Gemini to, use their wedges first, kill the spinners or try to kill the spinners, and then focus on one. I think that was very good work as well. But like you said, fair play to War for because they KO one half of them, didn't they?
Gemini killed himself.
Gemini was alive at the end. Yeah. They were all limping at the end. I'm glad this fight didn't go longer than 3 minutes. This would have. I mean, this is like the 12th round, and everyone's just like they're throwing haymakers and missing. Like this is like they were just completely drunk, all out there. It was a really good fight. Yeah,
that's the best way to do it.
A lot of good sparks.
Yeah, I think another interesting thing, Gemini, one of them lost their weapon and the other one had lost drive. So I think the one was trying to push the 4 horsemen that were still left into the spinner that was still working. I thought that was great tactics.
You like reverse UK Gemini where they could like lock back together and become one robot again.
Yeah.
One with like double the drive with one big spin. I don't know.
I thought it was kind of funny early on that one of the Geminis hit. I think maybe it hit War, maybe it hit Pestilence. I forget, and it threw it into the other one.
Yes, that was sort of like how was it sort of why actually that flew the creepy crawlies into each other.
Yeah.
In the pilot last season, that was great. Good memories. Gemini ends at 2-2, 4 horsemen at 1 and 3. Pretty good. I'd say all things considered, that's a pretty good season for the pair of them. Really, they've.
Yeah. Well, this fight didn't really have any bracket implications.
No, it didn't.
And I knew that going in.
Yeah. I think all things considered, the fact that they both ended up with a win is great. And it shows. Against the correct opponent, and with good driving and tactics, multi-bots can work. I think they still give it a few years, and I think with the improvements to motors and batteries and armor and such, multi-bots could legitimately become a threat. I think it's still a few years away yet, but I think it's heading in that direction. I think there could be potential.
I'm gonna forget their names, and it's there was a pair of multi-bots that beat Last Rights in Robo games, and I forget their names. Crash and Burn, there you go, because they're flamethrowers, and they gave Tora Maximus a run for their money too. So it's really getting better, and it's cool to see these teams of robots beating up these big guys. I like seeing the lower classes kick ass. It's kind of cool.
Anything more to add to this to the meme fight?
My favorite quote from the entire episode was when Chris said, "It's like watching lightweights taking on middleweights." Because that was literally what it is.
It literally is. It kind of gets you thinking. Maybe they're hinting at something for season 4. Bit of.
I think they've done a lot of research since this has gone off the air. Honestly.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Which is cool.
Yeah. It seems to me that Chris and Kenny have really stepped up their game in terms of the knowledge
really
side. Yeah. They're properly committed to it. We'll move on to our next fight, which kind of had bracket implications, but in the end it turned out it didn't.
I know.
Which makes me really sad because the fight's between Hypershock and Scorpios. And man,
this was a really good fight.
It was a great fight.
Really good one. It
was a great fight. However, Hypershock, the one time it works and it kind of pins itself for the whole fight. God damn.
It got 2 or 3 really good hits in with that disc, and then it was just Scorpios being a bully, like it does. And it's a shame that we're not going to see Scorpios in the final 16 because it could really be a thorn in all these people's sides. Honestly, it's a shame.
The way Scorpius did that backflip, at the beginning.
Was great.
Oh my goodness. Fantastic. I about jumped out of my chair. It was like watching, those cheap plastic toys that the plastic's all springy and they'll bounce off of everything? That was what it reminded me of. It did not look like 250 pounds bouncing around out there.
Like one of those little pop caps, you turn them inside out and sit them on the ground, they go, pew,
That's it like some lower weight category machine, like ant weight or something, fighting each other. It was incredible. Just the amount of energy going on there from Hypershock. Again, that's another thing. It makes you think, had it worked all season, what might have been? Because the damage potential's clearly there. It's just
I think they took a bit too much from Bite Force first on, and they were kind of struggling throughout the rest of the season from that.
Possibly.
If it was the first fight they had, anyway.
It makes you think. Go on.
I was gonna say they have a robot that's capable of making a robot do a Tony Hawk flip without a vert ramp. So it's like it really is a shame to not have Hypershock late.
I mean, Hypershock, Will Bales has come back 3 times with 3 different robots. You know, 3 versions of Hypershock. I hope, you know, if he is listening to this, I doubt he is. You know, I hope that he sticks with this concept and just kind of improves it rather than. I think evolution rather than revolution is the way forward for Hypershock. You know, just we mentioned this before. You know, you look at, say, in Robot Wars and BattleBots in the last few seasons. You know, in series in Robot Wars case, the robots that, you know, it just evolved year on year did way better than new entries did. I mean, Rapid is a great example of that. You know, in Series 9, didn't really get going, took damage early on, had to withdraw. Series 10, much better, nearly beat Carbide. You know, until it burst into flames, obviously. You know, in this case, you know, I really hope that we get to see Hypershock at its full potential for the whole season rather than just a minute of a fight. You know,
I would agree with you on 2 points. Firstly, what you just said, I completely agree with. But also, this is my favorite aesthetic for Hypershock, and I don't want to see it change.
I think he finally got it. Like, it really has a good aesthetic for this one. Like, there's enough green and black robots in Florida. And last year he was green and black. And I know they've talked about it. I do listen to their tale of the tape thing that they do with Witch Doctor, and Will's on there too. And he's like, yeah, we have too many green and black robots. And I can say the same thing because I'm a Florida guy too. So yeah, we need to mix it up a little bit. And I like the acid yellow. It's cool.
Yes, absolutely. And the thing is, you know, he's a smart guy, and I think, you know, I know he likes to, you know, change things up every season. I get that, but I really hope just please, please.
It's a sign of brilliance, man. Nothing's perfect, you know.
It's true. I mean, I know, you know, I can sit here, you know, obviously I'm just talking a load of rubbish, you know, to, you know, for the sake of it, but like, and I know, you know, it's easier said than done, but like, I really wish he just like, kind of, he stuck with this design. That's all I hope. In terms of Scorpios, obviously winning the fight, I'm amazed they didn't have a spare disc. I'll be honest with you. I thought, you know, they'd have come with at least a spare, but obviously, you know, the budgets being what they were for, you know, Discovery's BattleBots was kind of I think a bit less than, say, a mainstream ABC season. Scorpios having to cannibalize just an angle grinder and stick it on top, which was
and tape it on.
I was laughing so hard at that. It was literally like watching old school BattleBots or Robot Wars again, where people just grab something off the shelf and that's my weapon on my robot.
It was brilliant. It was brilliant.
And now I can die happy knowing that Chris owns an angle grinder.
And he knows when it spins or not.
Yeah, he does know when it spins or not.
Are they going to be doing awards again this season?
I imagine they will do, yes.
I think that Scorpios' driver, I can't remember his name. Sorry, name's
Orion
Beach. That's the one. He could definitely be up for best driver as well,
absolutely.
I think.
Oh my god,
this was a driving. This battle was fantastic from both guys, and to be honest, I might get a little bit of hate for this. I think it was a bit better than Scorpios versus Ice Wave, simply because, like I said, Ice Wave mostly ran away for its fight. Meanwhile, Hypershock kept coming at Scorpios. It's like, you're going to bully me, well, I'm going to bully you back, sort of thing. And okay, that might have been why it lost, but still, you know, at least it was two robots actually trying for the full 3 minutes and actually outmaneuvering each other, and then just thinking, screw it, they're too good, let's just hit each other hard. And it was wonderful. And again, I think this could be up there for one of the best battles of the season.
Yeah. Obviously, we do find out, even though it is 3-1 for the season, Scorpios doesn't make it into the bracket.
Yeah.
A shame, you know, considering, you know, it's beaten Ice Wave and Hypershock en route to the to 3-1, which is, you know, two very big scalps. With that said, I'm kind of glad as well that they didn't get in. I'll explain why. Because they're already limping in terms of spare parts. They've had the top taken off their robot twice. If they'd have made it into the bracket, I really don't think they'd have lasted very long, and I don't think they would have put on a good enough show. Whereas, say, something like Huge, which ended up getting seed 14.
I think the selection committee understood that too.
Yeah.
Where the fact that I'm sure people talk in the pits and word gets back, and I mean, you can see that when you're putting a, I know it's a harkening back to old school BattleBots, but like when you're putting a garage tool on your robot, you really in this day and age, you're really grasping at straws. And I give him credit for sticking in there, because this is not an easy fight against a really like an F1. You're up against an F1 car.
Yeah, you really
honestly.
are. You really are.
But yeah, but it was a good showing anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. Mike, anything to add?
What you were just saying about them taking into account how many spare parts that the other robots have and such, I think that's a big reason why machines like Warhead didn't get in.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because Warhead just has the grabber
also might
left.
be the reason. Yeah. I'm sorry, Mike. That just sparked something for me. But when we get to it, that's going to be important when we talk about the Rumble.
Yes.
And who got in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. With that said, Scorpios had considering I think they were reserves last season, weren't they? They were alternates last season, I believe. So considering they've come back and they've gone 3-1, I'm excited to see what Orion can come up with for next season. I think Scorpios has got a real good chance of progressing even further. Much like Sawblaze has this season. Scorpios has got a bright future, and I'm excited to see what he can come up with next. But it is time now for some serious fights.
Yep.
Obviously, these are both play-in fights for the bracket. One thing I have to say before we get into these. And I know I'm not the only one that thinks this. Having 3 fights be play-in fights for the bracket, I think, is a bit too many.
I think so too.
Agreed.
But this is one of those things where it's like these 2 matches appear like afterthoughts.
Yeah.
And I don't want if God forbid BattleBots hears this, I'm sorry, but it hurts when you think there were 16 spots open and then you have 3
of them reserved
ways to just cut them off. So really, you're only playing for the top 13.
Yeah.
So I mean.
Well,
I don't know what to think of it.
The spinner one, I understand. The vertical spinner one, I understand.
There's too many, I get it.
Yeah. It's a way to reduce the number of literally identical. I mean, they literally said Warhawk, Endgame, and Brutus are the same robot. It's just they're painted differently. They are literally the same robot.
You want the robots to change? You change the rules. You make the floor uneven. You want to get rid of wedges. You make it sportsman. You do things like that. There's ways to stop people from building certain machines, but the thing is, a meta is still going to evolve. I'm going off topic, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, exactly. And I think ultimately those 3 machines, they put on a good show all season. All 3 of them are, Brutus beating Son of Waiachi was kind of a huge moment. I think that's probably what earned it a spot in this fight in the first place.
Yes.
Obviously, Endgame, its first 2 fights massively impressive, and then getting beaten by 2 strong machines in Bite Force and Son of Waiachi again. Warhawk being at 3-1. Okay, yeah, get it. I get why they're there. The fight itself, it was really. I had Endgame down to win this. I thought Endgame would just absolutely tear it up and win this fight. Yeah. And which it looked.
Well, they did half of that.
They did. Well, they did. They ripped Brutus's front off, which was amazing. Amazing to watch. Just ripping the whole front scoop off, and I'm thinking, okay, it's going Endgame's way, and then their blade stopped. And I think it did the thing. I'm so happy.
Freaking a Shremek on that robot would have been great. And that shows you that Clash of Bots, I guess it wasn't that important to have a Shremek over there. I don't know. I guess we'll never know.
It's, in terms of Endgame, getting caught up on the front, it was incredible. The fact that they managed just to balance it spot on. I think Warhawk were a bit nervous about leaving it there in case the disc started up again. So. They just hit it over. That was job done.
Yeah, Warhawk kind of stayed back initially,
which was the smart thing to do. They did the eruption tactic of let's not hit anything. Let's those guys kill each other first, and then I'll go and sweep up the mess.
Exactly.
Well, that seemed kind of incidental because it seemed everybody was hesitant to go in at first.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
and it ended up being Endgame and Brutus just kind of decided, this is boring, and went after the closest thing. Mm-hmm. But I got to give credit to I think his name's Rob Farrow.
Correct.
Yes.
For, Warhawk,
the monkey guy.
The experience that he has to sit back and pick his opportunities and not just barrel into the mess.
Yeah.
Really impressed me because I honestly thought Warhawk was going to be the first one out because we've seen it have issues with its drive and its weapon in the past, and it's like as soon as it gets hit by either of these, it doesn't even have to do a lot of damage. It's going to lose drive, and he managed to pull out a victory where I did not think he could.
No, obviously it's already lost to Brutus this season, and this fight was, as I thought Endgame was going to win it because it's been the most effective throughout, but I think a few too many big hits earlier in the season might have scuppered it, and I think it's a bit of a rethink for Jack Barker and the Kiwis, but we'll see Warhawk in the bracket at seed 15 as they take on Bronco. Great, what a great.
That could be interesting. I think that could be. I think that could really be interesting. It's it's gotta. Oh, man, I mean.
Well,
how many times do I say? How many
He's
times do I
speechless.
stutter? I mean, how many times do I stutter and say "I mean" in these podcasts? Probably at least 1,000.
If there's anyone out there counting, I want to post how many times Steve has said this season. We'll discuss the bracket a little bit more after the.
Yeah, I don't want to get too deep. I gotta get a deep breath before what's coming.
Oh boy, it's that time.
Deep breath, boys.
So the last fight.
Crack open a beer.
This is going to be a long one, boys and girls. The last fight of the episode is the Last Chance Rumble with 6 robots, which I believe everyone was invited who was still working. I think,
yes.
Or wanted to, or had spares, or had I don't know the exact ruling of it. But apparently there was only 10 machines who could legitimately get a robot into the arena for this fight. So they chose these 6.
And I believe the minimum is that you had to have at least 4 fights.
Yes.
Whether it be in Desperado or not.
Yeah, or something like along those lines. I don't know. Either way.
Yeah. It's the way it looks.
Yeah. So the machines are Bombshell, Gigabyte, Duck, Lucky, Red Devil, and Valkyrie. And first of all, I really appreciate BattleBots actually explaining the rules before the fight starts.
Yes.
Which they obviously mentioned was if a robot is immobilized but then comes back to life later on, it's still in the fight. All 5 machines have to be counted out as immobilized before a countdown starts, which I don't know how I feel about. I don't really like that rule, I'll be honest with you. I feel like if you're out for 10 seconds, then you're out for 10 seconds.
You need a judge on every robot.
Yeah, I think it's more a case of not having enough personnel to do that. You know,
Yeah.
2 guys have to monitor 6 robots the whole time.
Yeah, I think it's down to a people thing rather than a competition thing. I think it's just one of those unfortunate circumstances where you can't really keep track of everything. So I certainly couldn't in this fight, and that's for sure.
Yeah.
And I appreciate the fact that they explained the rules before the fight actually started.
Yeah. John Reamer posted a video on the BattleBots website right before. This is the thing that's interesting. Where they post it right before.
Yes.
This fight happens, just to kind of hopefully clear up any confusion. But then people take it as, oh no, something must happen.
Yeah. Obviously, I believe in the morning of the Friday when it aired. I think Mike brought this to my attention. Certainly, that a lot of people on Reddit, our best friends over Reddit, decided to obviously leak the results, saying that there's a horrendous judge's decision. Obviously, they run about in their opinion, they run about this fight. Now, for my 2 cents, we'll discuss the fight itself in a second. But for my 2 cents, by the letter of the law, Bombshell wins the fight.
Yeah, by the rules.
Yeah, by the rules, Bombshell wins the fight, which I think we're all in agreement. Is that correct?
Yes.
Obviously,
if you count that little last spurt as mobilization, well, I don't know if I do or not, but for argument's sake, I'll say it was mobile.
Yeah. So
by the rules, it was technically fair, but
Yeah, I think we all agree Duck dominated the fight. Is that another fair statement?
Yes.
Yes. I guess you got to think about
the second half
what
of the fight.
What it did.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, it was in control of the fight. That's for sure.
Right.
With that said, let's talk about the fight itself.
Real quick before that, can I just rant real quick?
Of course you can, yeah.
So this fight was completely ruined for me by those early spoilers on Reddit.
Yes.
I woke up in the morning, it's maybe 7 or 8 in the morning, and got onto Facebook, got onto Twitter, got onto Discord. Everybody was discussing the fight openly as if they had already seen it. Because they had
already seen it
to Reddit. And that completely ruined this fight for me. I would have been amazingly surprised by the outcome and had all kinds of stuff to say, but the only thing that I could say was just how angry I was at everybody spoiling it ahead of time.
And actually, another thing I want to say before we actually discuss the fight itself, to all those out there sending abuse towards Mike Jeffries, please, rethink your lives. Because it's not his fault. He was awarded the win because that's how the criteria works. To all those sending abuse to Mike Jeffries, to all those spamming in the Facebooks and the Reddits that Duck was robbed. it was recorded a good 5-6 months ago. Let it go.
Steal your tongue. It's enough.
You know, I'm all for like, you know, jokes and banter. That's fine. When people
this is not a joke or banter.
You know, literally doing it religiously.
Yeah.
And you know, I mean, going out your way to message someone and give them abuse because you don't like their robot, or you don't like a judge's decision. I mean, get a fucking life.
It's gotten to the point where it's too much.
Get on Reddit. Go on. Rant on Reddit. Enjoy.
Yeah.
No scumsuckers there anyway.
Yeah. You know, I don't want this to turn into another Razor and Tornado. It probably will do.
No.
But, you know...
Yay.
But,
still going on.
Yeah, exactly.
Years later.
You know what I mean? Like, you know, come on, guys. You know, it'd be better than that. You know, this should be a really good celebration of an amazing season. And, you know, I personally don't want to end up getting soured by a really, you know, small minority, but a vocal minority nonetheless.
Yeah.
And in defense of Mike Jeffries, he genuinely looked shocked that he'd won that.
He did.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah, he did. Yeah. It's not, you know, it's not down to him. You know, at the end of the day, the judges made a decision based on the criteria that they're given, and
you can't go after the judges either because they're adhering to the ruling too.
Yeah,
it's nothing. It's nothing that they personally can do. And by the way, how are you supposed? Okay, there's 6 robots in the arena. How are 3 judges supposed to watch? I've watched this fight 5-6 times. I've still missed things.
Yeah, there's still things I'm discovering watching the fight back. With that said,
with that being said, that's why I think personally they should have counted the ones that were dead for longer as dead, because then it makes it easier.
And maybe the rule will change. You know, that's we don't know. So it's something they'll consider, I'm sure, after seeing what's happened.
Yeah,
it's a rant for another day, basically.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
exactly.
We'll leave it for now. We'll leave it for now.
Check out RoboWars Guru channel.
That great plug. With that said,
coming up next on Fight Court.
Oh please, can we actually do it, Mike? Please.
I'm up for that one. I'm so up for that one.
With that said,
world first, 9 judges.
I don't know how you're going to fit all 6 machines in that little grid thing that you do at the end.
This will be great.
Find a way.
Yeah.
It'll look really bad on mobile.
It really. Oh my goodness. With that said, what an amazing fight! What an amazing fight!
Such a good fight.
One of the best fights of the season, easily.
You know, Bombshell's going around, it's tearing tracks off Red Devil, it's flipping Gigabyte into the screws, Gigabyte's launching Lucky away, Valkyrie's
Gigabyte is everywhere in this fight.
It is!
In one spot.
Valkyrie's driving into the screws for no reason. Brilliant!
Duck used Valkyrie as a weapon.
That was great.
It used Gigabyte as a hazard too.
I know.
Valkyrie into Gigabyte.
This
absolute
is
genius.
The whole fight was crazy.
Lucky was the person, like, if you went out to a thing and like, we're all gonna go do this trick, and Lucky's the person with the camera, you know, behind the camera, watching everybody do the stupid thing.
Lucky was staggering around like my drunk uncle on a night out. That's what he did.
I felt.
Hey, look, lads, I'll be with you in a minute. Just. Who put this hill here? Seriously, man, I can't. Yes.
Well, let's talk about the order they went out with. Obviously, Lucky didn't really get going, and that was pretty much it. Lucky wasn't in this fight at all.
Lucky was technically in the judge's decision, wasn't it?
Because I think
they all were, but technically it was still mobile at the end. It was moving enough to be considered mobile, I thought.
Possibly.
Yeah, just the ones that are mobile
moving, but, judges. It was at least moving outside of a 1 millimeter perimeter.
Yeah.
So.
Better than Overhaul the other day. Nanometers.
Obviously, Red Devil got split in half again, pretty much by Bombshell. It was a cracking hit, wasn't it? Just split the track straight off and just killed it on one side. It was great.
That's what we've been waiting for from Bombshell all season, was a hit like that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Absolutely.
I'm not gonna lie, I've been waiting to see that from Red Devil all season 2. Ever since we've seen tracked robots come back with kill saws on the floor, I wanted to see a track torn off, and it finally happened.
I've been waiting for that moment since Witch Doctor in season 2. I've been waiting so patiently, and it finally happened.
It's literally, it's like an axe through polycarb armor. You just have to see a track get ripped off. It's the rules of robot combat.
Yeah, cool. Absolutely. Valkyrie, I don't know what Valkyrie was really doing. I will say, their intro was spectacular, and if much like that, if you follow their Instagram, be sure to do that because they're great fun. Much like their Instagram says, if it was down to the best intro getting into the last 16, theirs was the best. They should get in. Yeah. Just give it to them. Give them the chance.
There were periods in this fight where Valkyrie just ran itself into the wall.
Yeah.
It's like, where am I?
Like I said, it just drove into the screws for no reason.
Yeah.
You know when you see something and you wonder how it got there? That was Valkyrie in this fight.
Yeah.
It was, but it was good fun. It was just bouncing around the arena. I didn't really know what it was. I didn't know what it was doing. Maybe they did, but it was great fun. That was fantastic to watch.
This is the thing, and this is a shame. This is what this fight should be remembered for: is how manic everything was.
Yeah, it's like the
we
10
haven't seen
Robot
a heavyweight
Rumble.
rumble since Nightmare stopped them back in when the show stopped. When something went through the roof. This is really as close as we've gotten to having a big old heavyweight rumble back in the box. It was pretty awesome.
Yeah. One thing I did like as well is obviously Gigabyte died.
Yeah, I know.
But they kept the thing spinning. They didn't.
Yeah.
I like that. Normally
they went pseudo invader.
Yeah. Normally when say your robot dies but your weapon still works, they just turn it off because they know there's no point. But Gigabyte kept it going. They kept cranking it up and they wanted people to hit them. That was fantastic. I love.
Oh, man. I'm watching this fight while we're talking, and I just saw Red Devil go across the screen due to Gigabyte, and that's what killed it. And oh man, that was a hit.
It makes me wonder. Had Gigabyte been at full power the whole season, what might have been? Because obviously they had the fight with Tombstone where their lid popped off, and they just had general issues throughout. Even in the Desperado tournament, they lost the top bar and it couldn't self-right.
Uh-huh.
It makes you think what might have been, and sadly Gigabyte just couldn't quite pull it all together. I would have loved to see them fight Tombstone again. That would have been great fun.
By the way, all these hits that Bombshell is getting on Gigabyte are adding up.
Yeah.
Each time it really, really takes it to that thing, and that's the robot that really was the fear in this fight.
Yeah.
Honestly, the entire time everybody's gunning for Gigabyte, and Valkyrie's disc is dead, and oh man, and then poor Bombshell loses half of its drive, and then that's when it starts.
Yeah. So let's
I don't understand why. Sorry, I don't really understand why Gigabyte was such a favourite to win, because with a shell spinner, you need space to be able to spin up to speed quick enough to make it effective. And with 5 of the machines in there, that's just almost impossible to do.
I know.
Gigabyte. If anything, I thought Gigabyte was the first to lose. I'm surprised it lasted as long as it did. To be honest, that's not me being harsh on the team or the robot. It's a fantastic machine, but statistically, in that environment, it shouldn't have lasted as long as it did, and it did. So fair play to them. It did really well.
Kind of going off of that point, I was kind of surprised that everybody did not immediately go straight for Gigabyte at the start of the fight. They actually let him get up to speed.
Yeah. Very interesting.
And that was a sign of respect, I think, as well. They didn't want to just immediately all team up on the big favorite. Make it a fair fight, a good, clean, fair fight, which I think is good.
But in fairness, the way that Gigabyte's design hockey pucks around the arena and just kind of pinballs off of everything, I think it was actually to their advantage because they could hit all 6 or all 5 opponents at the same time, basically.
Yeah. Just flying around the box. It was great.
And after they lost drive and it was still spinning, I was wondering how many hours it took for the batteries to die for them to shut it off again.
I think it was 70 minutes last time, wasn't it, for Invader to stop working?
Something like that. It was over an hour.
Yeah, it was crazy. Obviously, me, Anderson, and Steve have talked a lot about the Rumble so far. Mike, I want to hear your thoughts.
So at this point, I was really cheering for Duck because it was Bombshell looked like it was out because it was barely driving. Lucky looked like it was out because it was having drive issues. Red Devil was dead. Valkyrie was kind of trying to move around. But Duck is pushing everybody into the walls, pushing Valkyrie around. It started using its primary weapon, quote unquote, to lift Valkyrie as it's pushing it around and such. It's like, okay, so now they're actually scoring points for that and such. And it absolutely felt like Duck was going to win. I thought it was going to be counted out. I thought nobody was going to be left running at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And then Bombshell moves.
And then Bombshell moved a little bit.
Now we originally.
Again, can you really class that as full mobilization? I mean, it literally did. It's like I don't consider a robot using. I don't consider a robot using its inertia from its weapon as a way of movement.
I'm gonna describe it. The way that I saw it was when we've seen robots with questionable maneuverability before, we've seen them hesitate in the middle of the count out. Mm-hmm. Like, are they actually moving? Are they not actually moving? Okay, we'll continue the count out. And I think that's what this was here, is they had questionable maneuverability just in time for the fight to end.
Yeah, they're just enough movement to distract the judges, so to speak. You know, John Romaro's got to see some movement, and he saw some movement. That's how it is.
Yeah, and if you hesitate at 2 minutes and 59 seconds of the count out, you know.
Yeah, that's enough.
Yeah.
With that said, obviously let's talk about the contentious point. You know, obviously it's been talked about endlessly on social media. You know, everyone's saying that Duck was robbed and Bombshell is a disgrace to be even in there. First of all, Bombshell being in the Rumble itself at 0-4. The reason why it's in there, one, it's the 2 seed from last season. You know, it was the second placer from last season. As well as that, they fought Bronco, who's 4-0. They fought Bite Force, that's 4-0. They fought Yeti, which is 3-1 and is a damn fine machine as is. And they
nearly beat Yeti.
They nearly beat Yeti, which is
they should have done, but that's with me.
And they also fought Lockjaw, who were also in the bracket via the Desperado tournament. I think they probably would have maybe snuck in anyway, but by the by. And for those questioning, you know, why was Bombshell in there, that is because it's got pedigree. It's a great machine, and it's just had a really rough run of results and draws this season.
I mean, like they fought nothing but top 16 robots the whole time.
Exactly. You know, you look at robots like, you know, not to take anything away from them, but say a robot like Sawblaze. You know, none of their opponents were in the top 16 apart from Bronco, which they lost. And obviously Duck, you know, you could say the same thing. They fought Bronco and Tombstone and lost, and their 2 wins were worthy wins. In terms of the Last Chance Rumble itself, you know, the result, you know, I think, as we mentioned earlier, we're all agreed that in terms of the fight itself, towards the end, Duck had the upper hand in terms of controlling the fight. Bombshell scored some big early points, you know, those hits on Red Devil and Gigabyte really, you know, gave it the damage points, you know. It was. The thing I'm most surprised at is it was unanimous. I think if it was split, I would completely get it. I think unanimous is a bit harsh on Duck, and you can see obviously you can see Hal Rooker.
Hal is so. I feel so bad for him. I would have loved to have talked to him today.
Well, as I was going to mention earlier, we were going to have Hal Rooker on this evening, which would have been really fascinating to hear what he had to say. Obviously, unfortunately, he had some kind of business conference, I think, of some kind that he couldn't actually make it this evening. So we'll.
He has a life.
I know how dare he have a life that, you know, to not do this. But we will be talking to him later in the week. So if you want to see an interview with Hal Rooker, obviously particularly about this fight, be sure to tune in later in this week for that.
Yeah.
I can't wait to hear that because after this fight, I felt the way that Hal looked.
Yeah,
I was heart wrenching, man.
Yeah, I would have loved to have seen Duck in the top 16. It would have been a great spectacle to see. You know, it's been a really fun machine this season, and credit to him. You know, he absolutely, you know, he went up to the mic afterwards and gave him a big hug as well and said, look, you know, congratulations. It was very sporting, and I was very happy to see that. You know, the fight itself, you know, Duck did really well pushing robots around. It played
with a lot of dead robots though during a long period of time.
Yes, I think that's probably what counted against it.
Yeah. That and Duck didn't really use its active weapon until the end.
Yes.
Bombshell was taking robots out with its active weapon, and Duck was just kind of bumping into things until the end.
Yeah. Well, at that point, it probably thought it won because everything was basically almost dead.
Yeah, and I can see, you know, I can see why people are disappointed in the result. You know, it is you know, quite controversial, you know, on the face of it, but at the same time, the toxic response that it's got is just bang out of order. You know.
Well, it is basically like you said, Tornado Razor all over again. I mean,
these are the kind of things that get a show not necessarily canceled.
Well, I mean, it did that with Robot Wars pretty much.
It did. A lot of toxicity around season 10, and I'm sure people would talk about that, but we won't get into that. But a lot of toxic fan bases and things that spread through and go up the grapevine to production can kill a show.
Ladies and gentlemen, Robot Wars has been cancelled twice. BattleBots has been cancelled 1.5 times. Let's not lose it again. Yeah, this bit of positivity. The fight itself was incredible.
I mean, heaven forbid we end up with just Clash bots.
Oh God.
KFC.
I love me some chicken.
Or King of Bots.
I mean, King of Bots is okay.
King of Bots was crap. The robots were great, but the editing just ruined it for me. It was unwatchable.
It's China. China will get there eventually. They'll get used.
They'll get there. It's cool as hell.
With that said, obviously Bombshell winning the Rumble in the end, despite what everyone thinks of it. You know, at the end of the day, Bombshell won.
In the end, it sets up a really neat 1/16 fight in the bracket.
Well, should we talk about the bracket a little bit?
Sure, just a bit.
We are going to discuss the bracket in a bit more detail again later in the week.
I'd like to see what Mike thinks about it.
Yeah, I do too. They've actually just released the airing schedule as well, which is actually quite interesting. Yeah. Which is going to be the last 16, 4 last 16 fights, and then the 2 semi-finals. 2 quarterfinals per week. Mm-hmm. And then obviously the final will be the semis and the final, and probably some other fights in there as well. Mm-hmm.
We might finally get a third and fourth playoff.
Possibly, but as from what I can see, what's probably going to happen is there's going to be, 3 fights from the last 16, and then the 2 quarterfinals, and then maybe one of those fights will be on the Science Channel or something. I don't know.
It seems like it, yeah. Because there's just not enough time to put all that in one episode.
To put 6 fights in there is going to be tough going.
Yeah, 5 is usually as much as we're going to get. We're going to have 1 fight that they're going to cut and put on Science,
which is fine. It gives everyone an excuse to watch it. With that said, obviously I kind of taken Mike's thunder here. Mike, what do you make of the bracket as a whole? What have you made of the seedings?
So seeding wise, there's some kind of questionable things in here.
Yes.
I don't think anybody's doubting Tombstone is seed number 1, obviously.
Nope. Right. Yeah.
I'm surprised Bronco is number 2.
Yeah, I thought it would be Bite Force.
I thought it would be Bite Force too. Bite Force took out a lot of good robots and very decisively, and Bronco didn't really get challenged much. They took out Duck, which is a good robot but cannot damage them. They beat Lockjaw, which is a good robot but wasn't working. And they beat Bombshell in seconds because Bombshell wasn't working either.
And they just about scraped to win against Sawblaze as well.
Yeah, so I can't see Bronco being in the bottom half of the bracket, but I could definitely see it being 4th or 5th seed here. And so I'm a little surprised they're above Bite Force. Other than that, I don't have a problem with the bracket.
What do you think of Waiachi at 8?
Waiachi, son of Waiachi.
Yeah, Waiachi is
Sao,
super heavyweight, sorry.
Sao, as the graphics team likes to put it on the show.
Yeah, and people talk about it that way.
Female pig, yeah.
I mean, it's not out of the ordinary for that team, given what they do for a living.
Get your rudder guns out, boys.
I expected Son of Waiachi to be higher, but I understand why it's not. It lost to a robot that's not even in the bracket.
Yep.
And it is vulnerable to being flipped over easily. It doesn't have that self-righting capability that a lot of the higher seeds do. So I understand Son of Waiachi's placement. I understand Ice Wave's placement. They also lost to a machine not in the bracket.
Wait, how about Minotaur? Minotaur at 4.
They're only lost to Tombstone. I mean, that's fair enough.
Okay, I'll give it that, but it's the whole deal where their wins haven't looked really as dominant as they used to be. I guess I don't know, and it depends on who they fought.
I think what we're not seeing here is that there's also they're taking into effect star power.
Yes, I think so.
Recognizable names. What do people want to see? People want to see Minotaur and Tombstone and Bronco. Yeah. I haven't seen very many people super excited about Rotator competing.
My surprise, personally, was Lockjaw being at 9.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
I would have said put them at 14.
Called it.
You did call it.
I called that one. That's the one I got right, along with Tombstone, but I called it.
So obviously we're not going to go through the whole bracket right now, but realistically, who do you see, towards the end of the competition? What are you guessing, Mike?
Final 4, I see Tombstone, obviously.
Yep.
I see Bite Force in the Final 4. And beyond that, I'm really not sure.
Yeah.
Because the other 2 spots are going to be taken up by... you've got machines like Whiplash, Yeti, and Bronco that all have to fight for that.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then you have Monsoon, Minotaur, and Witch Doctor, all extremely capable machines, and Sawblaze, who can bully all of them.
Well, you look at... Honestly, I really reckon they've had a decent season. Monsoon could be a real dark horse for this one.
I think so too. That 12 seed I think is real low for what kind of quality we can see out of that robot.
Problem with Monsoon for me is the reliability. its weapon keeps breaking, and it has had a couple of lucky breaks.
And even if they beat Sawblaze, Sawblaze, they have to face either Minotaur or Witch Doctor.
That's a tall order anyway.
Yeah, I personally think, listen, no offense to Tom at all or anything like that, he's built a great machine, but I actually think their seeding might be a bit high, but that's just me. We'll discuss that obviously later on in the week, but
Yeah, of course, yeah. For my 2 cents, I can't really disagree with Mike. I think Tombstone and Bright... I wouldn't be surprised if Tombstone and Bright Force is the final. That's how good they've been this season. I can't see much beating Bright Force, really. Or Tombstone. I think that's... For my 2 cents, that's probably the most likely final, with the winner being Tombstone again, I think. Mm-hmm. Just because it has a bigger reach.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think if any robot can beat Tombstone, because we've seen a couple of robots get close,
yes.
But if any robot can do it, it is going to be Bite Force. I mean, that thing, like I said it before, I'm going to say it one more time because why not? It's fucking daft, okay?
It is daft.
And that, like I said, if anything can do it, it will be Bite Force. But like you said, Tombstone's got the bigger reach. It's actually quite surprising how it's got such exposed wheels, and yet no one's ever been able to really exploit it because of how far the reach is of that weapon. And Ray Billings, to his credit, is a fantastic driver.
Yep, absolutely.
That's the thing that nobody takes into account.
Yeah, I know, right? It's amazing, really.
Like even when Whiplash is like inches from Tombstone's wheels, he's able to spin that weapon around and hit him with it.
Yep. Yeah.
So
odds on Bombshell winning against Tombstone and then taking the giant nut home. What do we think, boys?
That would be incredible. And you know what would be interesting to say is the fact that all the hate that Bombshell's getting currently, if he beats Tombstone, I think he's a hero, honestly. Because no one can stop Ray, honestly. And if it's a rematch from the final we had last season, and I assume that this will be a better fight than we got in the 2016 final, because that really wasn't much of a fight. Nope. Because you tried to get that chain, and as soon as he misses the chain on Tombstone, it's game over. He's not going for that approach, obviously, this time, because it's a one-man, it's a one kind of bot show. It's not a Swiss Army bot anymore. If he gets the right hit, I don't know. He might.
It's exciting.
I would just love to see it happen, man. I would love to see it happen. We just had college basketball March Madness. A 16 seed finally beat a 1 seed for the first time ever. We need to see it happen in BattleBots.
Well, it happens in sport all the time. You have a terrible season, you win the playoff, and then you just about squeak into the tournament at the end, and then you go and win it. It's how it works.
Exactly. It's very common. Yep. LA Kings in the NHL, for any hockey fans out there, that totally happened. They were the lowest seed. I think it was like 2014, 2015, and they came all the way through and won the whole thing.
Nate Milbank,
it happens all
you love
the
your
time.
hockey. Nate Milbank loves his hockey. He'll get that. Like Sergei Bobrovsky.
Yeah. Let's go Blue Jackets.
Blackhawks rule.
I mean, you're not wrong.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you.
With that said, this was a great episode. Shadow over it possibly by the toxic community aside. This was a great episode. It was a great spectacle. So much happened.
It was one of my favorite episodes so far. Just every fight was so fun.
Yeah. Absolutely. I just hope that it isn't overshadowed by the unfortunate reaction to Bombshell winning, which at the end of the day it's not down to the team, it's just down to the rule set which is in play.
I can understand people being upset with it. I'm not exactly the happiest person with it. I'm not going out bloody starting wars and flaming and hating on the team because I think that's not their fault.
At the end of the day, you know what they say: don't hate the player, hate the game.
Hate the game.
As we all know, Hughes is going to win the series. Right.
That would be quite the comeback if it managed to beat Bite Force and go on to win. Anyway, that is it for the regular season of BattleBots 2018. We've made it all the way to the championship bracket, and we will see you next week for what should be a really great episode. We've got a lot of big names in there, so I'm very excited. But Mike, thank you once again for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is a lot of fun to do these podcasts.
With that said, I've been Sam64.
I'm Anderson9132 Guru.
I've been Steve the AmericanKillJoy.
And I was Mystrsyko tagging along for the heck of it.
Of course. you had to do it. And we will see you next week for the start of the championship bracket. Oh. We'll see you next week. Sayonara.
All right, Mike, you can take the shackles off your gun. You're free.
He's never free.
Got to go back to Jim's basement now.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Exactly. Freedom? Ha! What's that? Oh.